Hey guys, welcome. Florida College of Emergency Physicians Medical Student Council. We are going to talk today about rank list do's and don'ts. So I'm going to share my screen and we are going to get going. Okay. First of all, I would like the opportunity to put this up on your screen. So if you're watching this, even in the future from now, obviously, you have the opportunity to check out the Medical Student Council's Instagram and webpage. The Medical Student Council folder is where you can sign up the roster and utilize some of the resources we've collected for you. And to introduce myself, I'm actually have the honor of being the faculty I think I have official name of faculty chairman of the council. I'm not sure, but I get to work with medical students and bring the resources of FCEP to the medical students and hopefully enhance their journey along the way. I am also, outside of my FCEP role, I'm the program director for University of Central Florida, North Florida. Today, we're going to talk about these things. It's not going to take too long, but we need to talk about code of conduct so you're prepared and appropriately behave during the match season cycle. We're going to talk about personal priorities, advice from residents, research do's, research don'ts, and then post-interview communication, which is important to know about. So first of all, the code of conduct, when you enter the match, you will be signing off on a code of conduct, which is like 2-page PDF that you'll sign off. And this is the part about the ranking list. Applicants should create rank order lists based on their true preferences, the characteristics of the program interviewed, and perceived alignment of the applicant's capabilities and interests with program mission, aims, and eligibility. Applicants must not respect must respect the binding nature of the match commitment and be prepared to honor the commitment if a match occurs with any program placed on a rank order list. I don't know why you wouldn't rank the programs you really, really liked in that order. I don't know what the motivation would be. That's certainly true. If you rank a program that you do not want to go to, that is not right. You should not rank that program. What's more important is our code of conduct as a program. And our code of conduct, we'll talk a little bit later because it has to do with concerning the rank list, it has to do with our communication afterwards. So we'll talk about that. Very important when you are considering how to create your rank list. It's very personal to you. I talk a lot about this with my interviewees and with my mentees. There is not one amazing program that's better than every other program in the world, and every student is trying to get into that program. You guys know that that's true. There's not one student that is the best emergency medicine student, and every program is trying to get them. In fact, I've talked a lot with PDs about this. It would be so amazing if we could just drop you in, use something like litmus paper or something, and just match you up with the best. I see another use for AI. Match you up with the best program for you. So this takes a lot of awareness of yourself, learning environments, and some insight to what is available to you. So for example, some people, this is a tough mutter. Some people, they are looking for a smaller program with open communication. Some other people might think that unopposed procedures is the most important. So all of these characteristics on the left are characteristics of programs. And then on the right, you see the bubbles. That's the type of learner you are. So if you're a learner who thrives with direct feedback, you need to have that insight to you and not be into a program that does not provide direct feedback on the floor. So that's a nitty-gritty level. Let's talk about why this is important and how you can look at it. So I'm going to get a little foo-foo. Wellness is not my favorite word or topic because it's literally shoved down your throat in medical school now. At least that's the word on the street. Okay. So I hate to say it, but this is the dimensions of wellness wheel. And I think that it's important to bring this up, not to give you PTSD, but to remind you that there are in this wheel 8, some wheels have 7 dimensions. And the definition of wellness per the International Organization of Wellness, yes, there is one, is that you consider all the dimensions of wellness when you make large decisions. And no, I'm not saying look for a program that has spirituality or whatever. But if you are someone who cannot work on Fridays because you follow the Sabbath, then you need to find a program that's going to accommodate you, right? So the spiritual pie piece for everyone is not going to be the same as an emotional, occupational, etc. So why I bring this up is that you need to create your own wheel and really think about each section of this dimension of wellness and how they might be translated into what you're looking for in a new environment to train. Now, this wheel on the left that I made really has to do with program characteristics, but environment of the program is really important. You know, if the number one thing for you is that I want to be near my wife and young child, and my wife cannot move, you know, or we can't afford childcare unless we're by our parents, you know, I hear that a lot. Then location and environment is going to be the most important thing for you, and that's going to take precedence. But each one of the things on this wheel are actually really important. And if you ignore 7 out of the 8 pie pieces because of finances, this program is going to pay you $20,000 more a year. But it has crappy social, it is not great learning, and it's in a part of town that you're scared to leave. I don't know, I'm making things up. Then you're not going to make great choices. You're not going to end up being well, is basically the thought process. And this can be translated into looking for a program. So that first step really is figuring what is filling your bucket. So intellectually, what is filling your bucket? Is it going in every single day and experiencing the patient? You're a kinetic learner, and that's like what's getting you. Is it going in and sitting down with the most amazing expert in toxicology and talking about aspirin overdose, for example? And so you need to kind of figure that out along your 4th year so that you can make these good choices. Now, let's look, speaking of applicant preferences and data out there. This is on the web. There's the QR code. You can look at it and play around with it. This is the preferred specialty of emergency medicine. They have data for all the specialties, and then you can look at all the students together. This specific sheet is the factor in ranking programs by the applicant. So the blue bars are basically how of importance, what the applicant thought was important. And then the green bars are the average rating. So 1 through 5. And you can see that 5 most important and 1 not very important. You can see they put them in order by the highest to the lowest. That rotation schedules were important, quality of education was important, appropriate balance between faculty supervision and residency responsibility was important. I put this here so you could see it, so you could see some of the factors you should be looking at when you're doing rotations and when you're looking at programs. Sometimes it's even hard to even come up with what are the factors that might really affect my day-to-day experience. So here's the list that ERIS thinks is important. And remember, these are applicable to all specialties. The surgical questions aren't in here. And this is what the applicants thought was really important. You can see salaries at 34% right here. Salary is very important, but it's largely regulated. So there are some things that are going to be the same. Vacation, personal, and family leave. There are some differences in family leave policy, for sure. That is becoming more and more regulated as the double AMC and specialties boards are getting involved to tell programs that they have to provide certain types of leaves, regulating that as well. But your vacation is basically ACGME tells you how much vacation you have. And my suggestion to you would be not to look at the overall vacation policy, but how is vacation, how do they schedule it? And for example, vacation is 5 days because for whatever reason, people cannot wrap their heads around 365 day staffing things still to this day, even though the hospitals are open 365. So you're actually given 5 days of vacation. So when you have 4 weeks vacation, you're actually only given 20 days of actual vacation. So in our program, you always get the anchoring weekends. You're by ACGME, you are guaranteed 7 days because it includes 1 weekend. But our program felt very strongly that even if you are going to have to, work the other amount of shifts, every resident wants to have both weekends around their vacation. So that was a preference that the residents have, and you can ask about that. Notoriously, in some of the surgical specialties, for example, that is not even an option. So that's something you can ask when you meet a resident and you're interviewing and talking to them about different aspects of the program. Okay. So these were the personal ones that I put up that I thought, oh, these are going to be my important things. So you do your homework, you think about your rotations, even the rotations that aren't in the ED, right? You think about what it's like in the rotation. You think about where you traveled to rotate. You think about what you've been looking forward to. You guys think, oh, when school is over, I'll do this. When school is over, I'll do this. When I do residency, I'll do this. Well, if your dream is to snowboard on the weekend, don't interview at my program. Okay? It's not going to happen because I live in Florida and we can go to the springs and paddleboard all you want, but there is absolutely no snowboarding here. Although they just built this thing where you go inside of a building and there's you can ski and snowboard like the old wave things. Like you stay in the same place and it keeps going. It kind of freaks me out. I haven't done it yet. So if that is good enough, then maybe you can. So here's some ideas for me. So location, I really want to be near somewhere that I can do outdoor activities. I am not a huge city girl. I'm not going to be thinking about going to maybe New York. That's very overwhelming for me. Or you have a spouse. Or you don't want to do residency in Philadelphia like I did and only be paid a resident salary and have to make it do. You would rather live somewhere with a lower cost of living, for example, which I highly recommend Philadelphia. I'm not putting it down. You are someone who that you want someone, you've read all the papers, you know how important mentorship is. You would like a formalized mentor program. Well, you're going to figure that out. You want to make sure that you have a mentor family. You want to make sure there's no competing learners because you are really interested in being able to go practice anywhere. And that to you means that you want to have enough experience with the skills, or a program has strong didactics. Board prep. Some of you guys are super test takers and totally killing it, and you study in your sleep. I love you guys, but some of you aren't. And having a program that, for example, our program, we have the resources to provide full board prep courses. And a lot of programs do that now. And we also have opportunities, after hours opportunities where we all get together and go do Jeopardy night, kind of like a trivia night at the bar, but we do Jeopardy night at the brewery, and it's all EM board prep questions. And so there's different, some people be like, well, I don't need that. I don't want that. That's not on my list. That might be on your list. And then of course the people, which are really important, and faculty engagement, clinical environment. These were some of the ones I came up with, but these are examples that you should be creating your wheel, but more in the form of a spreadsheet because it's much more pragmatic. And I do see Christina down there. We are lovers of spreadsheets, but you need to have chart, spreadsheet, dartboard, whatever it is. And now we're going to talk a little bit about what residents told me. These are residents from our program, residents from Osceola, and then residents from Thomas Jefferson, actually, from the residents. Basically, what kind of person do you want to be? Are the senior residents like that person? I thought that was interesting. That's really deep. I didn't think that when I was interviewing. I was like, where can I survive? Where will they graduate me? I got to figure out where I can fly under the radar and get through. You guys are a much better place than I was, and you're going to be much more mature about everything, I'm sure. Okay, how you felt is important. This comment was followed up by talking about, this was from a resident who obviously was all virtual interview, like a recent resident. And they said that even though it felt like there was a barrier and it was really, really hard, it was really important how they felt after the interview. And we'll talk about that. And down here, you can see in the little cursive writing, jot down notes after each interview, they all run together. This is very, very true. Like, I mean, so true. It's like going wine tasting. By the, second flight, you have no idea what's going on and you do not remember the first wine. You have to jot down little keywords, little something that happened that day. Take 5 seconds after the interview so that you can revisit it in your mind. Because now it's virtual, you get on, you get off, you're back to your regular life. It's crazy. It's like watching a lecture on the screen, but you can't do it at 1.5 times. All right, ask your best friend to weigh in after talking about the programs. I had a resident who said this was like the best thing for her. She basically was talking about all the programs and talking about what she's going to rank. And her roommate said to her, well, why are you ranking it like that? You don't even like that program. And she was like, yes, I do. It has all these things. And she's like, yeah, but you kind of, when you talk about it, I thought you didn't like it. You really like this program. And it made her think about why she was choosing what and what really she had been communicating. Know what is important to you and reassess every few weeks. You can learn something from all the presentations. This came from someone who on the interview trail learned more about what to look for after talking to other students going through the interviewing trail and hearing what the programs were trying to tell you. They actually helped them kind of collate their thoughts about what was important. So this was and there were lots of comments, but they kind of all kind of spoke to the same, these comments here. Okay, you guys have total common sense, are way, way more online, social media savvy than I am, but I'm going to bring up some of these points because they are very, very important. Do request access to STAR, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Do rely on trustworthy sources, which is definitely in the eye of the beholder. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. Do ask friends, family, and mentors for your feedback when you talk and show them things. Review all of your notes and reevaluate high points and low points. Because if you change your most important thing or how big that piece of pie needs to be, and you change that during the interview, you want to know what you thought about that first interview way back when. So you're going to have to put little notes. Don't rely on unregulated data sheets, and I'll tell you why. And don't experience psychological trauma from looking at unregulated data sheets. And we'll talk about that in a minute because it's honestly real. Okay, so Texas STAR is a program that it's UT Southwestern, but I can't remember which city, partnered and with medical schools. So basically, I have never been on it because it is between medical schools and Texas STAR. And so what happens is if your medical school signs up to participate, they send a ton of information to the program. And the program collates like all the board scores, where people are applying, and all that information. They have access, and you as a medical student then get access to Texas STAR. And you can go on the website and look at it. I know Christina's used it. Kaylee's used it. Its goal is to give you appropriate, correct information. Like if your step score is this, and it's supposed to be used also by your advisors. So at your medical school. So as an advisor, I could put in, oh, Robin got a step score of -3 and she has this, this, and this. And whoop, it comes up, ooh, you probably, well, okay, let's say my step score was higher than that. But it would tell you which programs have offered other students who've had that step score. And it would help you decide which program and which programs have had students who've had that step score, for example, match in that program. It's transparent and it's valid. So it is actual true data. This is not like some medical student who's disgruntled or who is ashamed and doesn't want to say what they're doing, or is the star in the class and just crazy, has all these scores and you're reading about it. This is actual true data. And if your school is not a part of it, you can actually ask your school to join Texas Star. So I know that FSU was, I know that Nova is, I know that FIU is, and more. Any questions about that? The other resources that I have pointed you to in the past is the EMRA, which is CORD and EMRA work together, but EMRA, Emergency Medicine Residents Association, their advising resources page. That is a great place to get information on how to assess programs and important factors on programs. So I always like to give you, it's not just me, I'm not the the end all be all. Here are some other trusted sources and some really good information. Okay, on to the don'ts. So if you don't know about it, there is an ERA spreadsheet, and every year for, I guess every specialty, I don't know, EM's involved, every specialty, this is this multicolored, it's on Google, right? I can't remember. Yeah, it's on Google. You can find a link to it on Reddit. I'm telling this so you don't have to, do a lot of work and figure it out. And it has a ton of information on there. So if I'm a student applying for emergency medicine, I can go on this page and not have my real name on there. And I can say, oh, this is my step scores. This is, these are my characteristics as an applicant. And you go on and you update, oh, I got an interview today from wherever, Cincinnati, and I got an interview here, and you report where you've gotten interviews from. And you can also go to the section and report what their clerkship was like, or you can also go to a section, there's like program details, you can add program details, etc. The reason why I say be careful, don't have psychological trauma, is that this is absolutely not validated. And it's kind of like Reddit. You have your threads you trust and you like, there's reasonable people. And then you have threads that you're like, wackadoodle, can't even read this thread. It's insane. You don't know which is which on this data sheet. So people can go on there and be devastated because they have the same scores as this other person and they're not getting any interviews. Or all of these people have way better scores than they do, and it's making them feel bad. Or not even about the scores, but you're just not getting as many interviews as this person. It is absolutely, it's oftentimes more stressful than assisting. And I always want to see what is being written all the time. And so I will tell you that, as a student, I would not have been able to, if they had computers and the internet back when I went to school, I would not have been able to resist that. And I would have definitely wanted to go look and looked at what was written. But if you have one disgruntled student or who had one, negative experience, and they go ballistic on some kind of something about a certain program, it's hard for you to know if that's the one person that spoke up, or if it is a case where he had one bad experience, or she, whatever the case is. And so you have to take this whole sheet with a grain of salt, but it is really fascinating. Don't let it determine how you feel about yourself. I had to stop watching HGTV for the same reason. When you keep watching all those self-help shows and your self-help projects still have not gotten off the ground, you start to feel bad about yourself. You have enough to do. Don't do that. If you want information and you're going to take it with a grain of salt and really look at the overall application, I'm happy that you want to do it, but be careful. Reddit also, like I said, is very difficult. There will be people who, I call them the ranters, and you guys know this, people who get on whatever it is, Facebook, whatever, and they go on a rant. So basically they're emotionally typing and they don't have any facts, and it's impossible to understand like the actual, like if you were a lawyer in the courtroom, like what exactly actually happened, or you just pissed there, wasn't warm coffee in the cafeteria at night. Like it's very hard. So those rantings can be very, very misleading and a waste of time for you as an applicant who's trying to get information on a program. So I just want you to be careful and put a time limit. Like if you're going to go down the rabbit hole, do it, but don't be Alice in Wonderland. Have a rope. When that timer goes off, you're out. Okay, that would be my suggestion on how to regulate that. That's what I do to my 8-year-old. He goes down rabbit holes on the kids' YouTube. Okay. Tips and traps on social media. And you guys know this, but I just want to say it out loud. Tips are that social media accounts for residencies are helpful. They give you the flavor of the program. It helps to see what the priorities of the program are. There's some social media accounts that, you know, they post a case every other day. They post research poster after research poster. It's amazing. It's that takes a lot of energy. That is where their priorities are, and it's amazing. You can meet the residents and faculty informally this way. Like some of the residents will have open accounts to let you see their account. And it may demonstrate how organized the program is or how much they want to get information out to you. The traps are that it's a completely controlled front. No seeing behind the curtains. And obviously, you know this, some things can be faked. So it's another, I am disappointed. I just don't know, as a student, it is very hard to get a characteristic of a program without talking to the people and without being there. So it is very tough, but I don't want you to spend gazillion dollars going places either, but sometimes you have to use whatever tools you have. So again, with a grain of salt. There you go. All right, post-interview communications. So this is the code of conduct. The program sign a code of conduct for ARIS as well. You guys sign a code of conduct. ARIS has a monopoly on medical training positions in the United States by far. If you screw up and get kicked out of ARIS, you cannot be in the match. That is very bad. If a program screws up and violates the match agreement, the code of conduct is a part of that, they cannot participate in ARIS, and it would be devastating. So everyone takes this very, very seriously. And if they get reports that people have violated, then there has been investigations, ARIS investigations, and they've gone forward. Not to scare you, but just to let you know that people are very serious about this, and I would never do anything, for example, to endanger my own program's participation. And all of the code of conduct is honestly to protect the student. And the reason being is you guys may have heard about it or not, but prior to the match, it was like a terrible, crazy free-for-all. And people were offering people like contracts and being like, sign now, and telling them how to void other contracts. I mean, I can't even imagine. That was before my time as well. But this process was created and controlled to protect you as a student so that no one could take advantage of you, make you sign a contract here, not give you a chance to meet another program, etc. Okay, so as an applicant during recruitment seasons, you may not have adequate time to get all the information you need. I tell everybody I interview that if you have any questions, anything comes up, totally email us. We'd be happy to hook you up with a resident to answer your question, or I'll email you the question, the answer back, no big deal. And you can absolutely do that, no problem. But applicants may request and exchange clarifying information, but must not solicit or engage in post-interview communication for the purposes of influencing or ascertaining a program's ranking intentions. So I get a lot of letters saying, oh, your program's amazing, I'm ranking you #1. And I respond, thank you so much for interviewing. We'd be, good luck on match day, because we're not going to say to them, oh, we ranked you #1 too, because we also know each other and we've compared letters in between programs and they're like exactly the same except for letters, names. So you guys really cannot ask a program, are you going to be ranking me #1? Okay. My part of that, or all programs, are that I can exchange clarifying information as well, but I must not solicit or require post-interview communication for the purposes of influencing applicants' ranking preferences. That also has to do with second looks. So I'm not allowed to say, if you really want to come here, but actually, that's terrible. I think I have said that. If you really want to come here, you want to make sure, come meet us. But I can't say, if you really want to come here, I'll know you only people who come to the second looks, really, I know that they're serious, trying to imply that they have to come to second looks or they have to engage with me more. That's against the code of conduct. And that's to protect you guys, because the whole thing with virtual interviews are to protect and increase equity, to allow anybody with any resources to interview wherever they need to. If people start requiring you to come to second looks, that takes away that equity piece, and that's not fair. Okay. Also, we are not allowed to tell you that we're ranking you number one or give you any misleading information. I would hope no one ever does that. Okay, post-interview communication. I put this slide up here. This is actually from last year. And I think it's important because well, here we go. This is when program directors were deciding which applicants to rank. These are the characteristics. So interpersonal skills was number one. This is EM only, by the way. Interactions with faculty during interview, really, really important. Letters of recommendation, the specialty. I totally agree with those top three things, honestly. And then feedback from current residents, absolutely. Interactions with house staff during interview or visit, 100%. Diversity of characteristics. It sounds like a holistic interview, right? Like all these things are really, really important. Way down here, 25% of program directors answered this survey saying that they considered post-interview contact. And what that is the little letter you send, and there's a lot of debate on what is appropriate and what people should do. And we've talked about it on listserv, and we've talked about it at CORD meeting, the program directors. And it is like Dr. Smith thinks it's very respectful and they love it when they get letters. Dr. Andrews is like, well, I never even open them. I throw them in the garbage because I'm not allowed to get any post-interview communication. And frankly, I don't care. We're looking at their characteristics. I'm the applicant, not if they wrote me a thank you card. And then, Dr. Robertson will say, it does express interest. So it doesn't really change a lot, but I kind of look where they are on the rank list, so you get so many different varied answers. So one piece of advice would be, if that's your thing and that's you, then go ahead and do it. It's kind of like a personal statement. Don't be the one outlandish, over the top, crazy thing. Like, don't send balloons. Don't be the one that becomes infamous if you are going to do it. It is really not required, and not everybody's doing it this year. I am getting a lot of email like, thank you for your interview, thank you for the interview, I love this and this about your program, which is very polite and appropriate, fine, and we don't use it to change our rank list. Does that make sense? Okay. I just had to put this up here because there are 25% people who do, so you may want to consider it. Okay, sorry. Okay. This is the QR code to join the FCEP MSC roster. So if you're watching this, that code should still be active at a later date as well. Please feel free to use it and sign up. And we can take any questions if there's any questions. Christina, do you want to talk a little bit about the Texas Star since you've used it?
Yeah, sure. And I think, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Kaylee, also you've used it before too. So if you have any other input in there while I'm talking. So it's pretty cool. It's like an Excel sheet, a really cool Google sheet. It's in some other program. I don't remember the name of it. And essentially there's like drop down menus and you can choose your specialty. You can also choose like by program, and it'll filter out, it'll give you like in a table format different things about the specialty as a whole or the programs that you've selected. So it'll give you like average step score. It'll give you like how much how if the students were AOA or not. It'll tell you I'm trying to think of what else it says on there.
Anything that's on your ARIS application that can
Yeah,
be objectified into point data.
right. And so like volunteer experiences, that was a big thing that I saw. So like that was when I was looking at it for the first time, I noticed, which was pretty pretty reasonable for emergency medicine. There was less like research and more like volunteer and extracurriculars, leadership positions, that kind of thing. So just to kind of see where you fall in that was where I was kind of looking at it. I have been told in the past, I'm not sure if this is true, that the Texas Star like depends on the students that like respond to it. So like sometimes it's like a little bit like overinflated because sometimes it's like the students that did better on step 2 or whatnot, and so the average like step data might not be as accurate. So just to kind of pay attention with that. But I mean, it shows you a lot, and it's pretty cool because you can compare it to the other data out there, like I think it's like FRIDA and AMA and all these other ones, and you can kind of like decide where you fall in that. And there's like a wide range. So especially when it comes to step scores. So it's just another resource for you to use. I don't know if anybody else had any other opinions or anything else that they wanted to add on that, but it's pretty cool.
I did see a question from Lexi. I've seen on social media, people send programs letters of interest intent. Does that violate this? So there's pre-application sorry, pre-interview letters of intent. Like, oh, I'm very, before they drop their interview invites. That is not against anything. A lot of program directors don't really pay a lot of attention to those. Then there's letters of intents that are after applications have opened, but maybe you have not gotten an invite for an interview, and you write them a letter saying, please review my application. I am very interested in your program, et cetera, et cetera. None of those violate this code. And that one actually I find to be very helpful as a program director, because if we have last minute cancellations in January, which you do, then I, still have this huge basket of applicants that I could invite. But if these 3 have written me letters of interest, then I am more likely to invite them for the last minute interview. That opens up. Then after you interview, a letter of intent could be, and I had one on my desk. It was very ridiculous. It like arrived in a folder, not folded. It's like the folder was gilded, and that one hurt him. It did not help him, because I was like, this is a little too much. This is emergency medicine. This is not cardiology. I don't know what you're doing there. But you can write them and say, thank you for the interview. I've been thinking a lot about your program. I enjoyed these aspects of your program during my interview. And that's it. Absolutely, totally fine. What violates it is if there is an obvious, you're trying to change their ranking of you, or you're trying to solicit what rank position you are in their program.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Oh. Any other questions? We finished like actually early. This is a miracle. All right, I am going to stop recording